There are moments when silence would have been the wiser choice. One thoughtless comment, a quick reaction. And the damage isn't just a bit of awkwardness. It can cost you trust, relationships, even your future. In a world obsessed with being heard, intentional silence is rare and powerful. But knowing when to hold your tongue and how to make your words matter requires more than restraint. It demands self-mastery. That's where Stoic philosophy comes in. It's not about being emotionless. It's not an escape for the timid. It's a framework for strength, a way to stay grounded in the chaos, to live with discipline, purpose, and clarity. Stoicism teaches you to master your emotions, to focus only on what you can control, and most of all, to recognize when silence speaks louder than words. If you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, "I shouldn't have said that," this is for you. Stick with this video, and you'll learn 7 tools that can transform your words from a liability into a source of strength. Tool 1. Listen more, speak less. Have you ever been mid-sentence and someone cut you off with a smug, "Yeah, I already know," or shared something important, only to be met with a distracted nod and a change of subject? In today's culture, everyone wants to talk, but few are willing to truly listen. Scroll through your feed. Everyone's shouting, few are absorbing. But Stoics saw listening not as weakness, but as strength. A strong mind doesn't need to perform. It watches, waits, speaks only when necessary. Like a master swordsman, precise, calm, and intentional. Silence isn't emptiness. It's space to understand more deeply. A story of silent strength. Dave is a rideshare driver in Manhattan. Quiet, not into small talk. One morning, a woman climbs into his car, exhausted, red-eyed. For 40 minutes, he says only, "Good morning." He turns down the music, places a water bottle nearby, glances back occasionally, not to talk, but to check in. When she leaves behind a note. "I just lost my father. Thank you for letting me sit in silence. This was the kindest thing that happened to me all week." Dave didn't speak, but somehow he said everything she needed to hear. Listening isn't passive. It's not just about being quiet. It's about being present. It's asking thoughtful questions like, "What did you mean by that?" It's resisting the urge to fix, to advise, to redirect. Real listeners don't rush to fill the gaps. They give people room to breathe. And ironically, they're the ones people turn to when it really matters. The best salespeople ask more than they pitch. The best doctors hear the fear behind the symptoms. The best friends don't always give answers. They give presence. Practice this. For the next week, try this. In every conversation, count your questions. Now count your opinions. Ask twice as often as you speak. Let the other person talk 70% of the time. You'll discover people don't need solutions. They just need to feel seen. And here's the twist. The better you listen, the less you'll need to speak. When you understand, you don't need to guess. When you see the whole, you stop arguing about the pieces. The most influential people don't say much. They just say what matters. And in truly hearing others, you begin to hear yourself. You notice the urge to interrupt, the impatience creeping in, the story you're dying to share. Becoming aware of that, that's growth. You no longer speak to win, you speak to connect. As Epictetus said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may listen twice as much as we speak. Are you living in reverse? Tool 2. Master your emotions. The real danger in most conversations isn't ignorance. It's emotion rising too fast. How many times have you said something in anger, only to regret it minutes later? Words aren't harmless. They're arrows. Once released, they can't be pulled back. And most arrows aren't fired from logic, but from fear, pain, or pride. We lash out. We overshare. We burn bridges in seconds that took years to build. That's why controlling your emotions before you speak isn't a luxury. It's survival. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be mute. It asks you to be mindful. True freedom isn't blurting out whatever you want. It's having the strength to pause, to reflect, to speak only when it serves. Have you ever wanted to shout, only to regret every word? Shared something in spite, only to destroy someone's trust? You're not alone. It happens everywhere, at home, at work, online. But you don't have to stay stuck in that cycle. You can learn to pause, and in that pause, you gain control, not just of your words, but of your future. Let me tell you a story. It's worth listening to because it shows how powerful emotions can shape not just our words, but our lives. John, a longtime manager at a tech firm in Chicago, was known for his calm, steady presence. Colleagues respected his composure, but in one tense meeting, his boss publicly criticized him harshly and unfairly. John snapped. He raised his voice, interrupted, and accused his boss of bias. He claimed the team had lost respect for him. The room went quiet. That same afternoon, John was removed from his role. The irony? He wasn't wrong to feel what he felt, but he lost because of how he reacted. 3 seconds of pause, a single breath, could have changed everything. That breath is the difference between reacting and responding. And that's the core of what Stoicism teaches. Don't speak when you're angry. Don't explain when you're hurt. Don't respond when your mind is storming. Modern neuroscience agrees with what the Stoics knew long ago. When emotions surge, your amygdala takes over, drowning out the reasoning center, the prefrontal cortex. In short, when you're angry, you're literally less intelligent. Your brain is hijacked. And what you say then doesn't come from your higher self. It comes from your emotion. Ask yourself, are you okay with anger being your spokesperson? But emotional control doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It's about transforming that energy into clarity. One powerful method: name your emotions clearly. Instead of "I'm mad," say "I feel disrespected" or "I feel powerless." Precise labeling activates the rational brain, giving you space to step back from the wave. Another technique from behavioral psychology. When you want to explode, write it down. Not a text, by hand. The act of writing engages the logical brain and cools the emotional heat. Within minutes, you might not even feel the urge to say those things anymore. Abraham Lincoln used this. When angry, he'd write fiery letters, then store them in a drawer, never to be sent. They called them letters of venting. They weren't for others. They were for him, to process, then let go. That's how he remained calm through crisis after crisis. You can also anchor yourself with small actions. Touch your wrist, exhale slowly. Tiny gestures, huge impact. They send your brain a message. Pause, reclaim control. These aren't just techniques. They're shields, protecting your peace, your dignity. Controlling your words isn't silence, it's strategy. It's knowing what to say, when to say it, and how. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in what you choose not to say. Have you ever said something in anger you deeply regretted? Share it in the comments, not for shame, but for growth. Let's learn together how to speak with purpose, not just emotion. And subscribe so Stoic wisdom can remind you daily. To master your emotions is to master yourself. Lesson 3. Speak less than you think. We often call it being honest or keeping it real. But blurting out every thought isn't honesty. It's lack of discipline. Depth doesn't come from speaking more, but from knowing what matters enough to say. Think back to a coffee chat with friends. Someone shares they're considering a job change. Before they finish, someone jumps in. To be honest, that's a dumb move. A few more just being real comments follow. And what began as openness turns into judgment. The mood shifts. The person shuts down. Maybe they'll never open up to that group again. A valid point said at the wrong time, in the wrong way, to the wrong person, is no longer valid. Stoics don't stay silent because they have nothing to say, but because they know every word has a cost. It could cost peace, trust, or energy. The more you grow, the less you want to speak. Not because you're empty, but because you're done cleaning up the mess of careless words. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Wisdom isn't always proving you're right. It's staying grounded when misunderstood. One last story. Thomas was sharp, a brilliant mind in finance. Quick, logical, respected. In one meeting, his boss pitched a poorly thought-out idea. Thomas jumped in, slicing it apart with brutal precision. He wasn't wrong, but he was too fast, too blunt. His boss didn't react. But weeks later, Thomas was quietly pulled off a major project. He was confused. The truth? Leadership didn't see him as a cultural fit. He didn't fail from lack of skill. He was simply right at the wrong time. From then on, Thomas changed. He started writing his thoughts before meetings. 10 minutes later, he'd reread them and ask, "Am I saying this to contribute or just to sound smart?" If it was the latter, he stayed quiet. Months passed. People began listening when he spoke. His silence became a sign of depth, not doubt. You can do the same. It's simple. When a thought arises, pause. Act as if every word costs money. You'd speak less and mean more. Give yourself a 3-second buffer. In that moment, ask, is this necessary for this person, this moment, this topic? That one small habit can change every conversation. Ever feel like you're over-explaining just to prove something? Every plan, idea, or emotion you share invites pressure. But when you keep a piece to yourself, you keep the freedom to shift, pivot, or walk away. No shame attached. You don't need to share everything you think. You don't need to speak just to prove you matter. The right kind of silence, it's invisible armor. It protects you from drama, misunderstandings, and battles not worth fighting. Ask yourself, are you speaking to be heard, or just afraid of being forgotten? Choose your words. Choose your moment. Choose your audience. That's not just smart communication. That's survival. Before you blurt out your next big idea, remember, ideas are like seeds. Speak too soon, and the wind might carry them away before they ever have a chance to grow. Why is silence the ultimate defense for what matters most? Why were the Stoics so secretive about their goals? The answer could change how you share trust and words with the world. Guard your plans. Modern life has a strange flaw. The more people talk about their goals, the less they seem to reach them. I'm launching a project. I'm learning this skill. This is my year. Months pass, nothing happens. Just another post lost in the scroll. Why? Because talk, when unchecked, is the deadliest sedative for action. It tricks you into thinking you're making progress, when all you've done is talked about moving. One day at a cafe, you overhear someone share their grand idea. A cozy, artsy coffee shop with books and community vibes. It sounds inspired. 6 months later, same cafe. Same person, same dream, no progress. They aren't lazy, they're trapped, tricked by the illusion of momentum. Our brains confuse talking with doing. When you share your plans, you get a dopamine hit. Applause, approval, attention. It feels like you're halfway there, but you haven't even begun. Marcus Aurelius didn't brag about simplicity. He lived simply. He didn't preach discipline. He embodied it. Ask yourself, if you were a tree, would you rather grow real leaves, or just shake your branches so others think you're growing? Let me tell you a story you won't forget. Jake, 34, software developer. Hated his job, always talked about building an app. Great ideas, polished presentations. He told everyone, mapped everything out. Months passed, not a single line of code. Then a friend told him straight, "You're addicted to talking about success, not building it." That hit deep. Jake deleted all his posts, went silent, sat down, wrote his first line of code. 3 months, silence. 6 months, no updates. Then one day his app launched, quietly. No fanfare, no noise, just results. Jake's story asks us all, are we working or just talking? And if you see yourself in that, that's not failure, that's an awakening. When you protect your plans, you protect the energy it takes to make them real. Look at Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. He didn't announce simplicity, he lived it. Sold government cars, cut his salary, planted vegetables in the presidential garden. When you stop performing, people notice. When you stop announcing, your actions speak. Silence is power. Try this. For 30 days, don't share your plans. No updates, no humble brags. Each time you feel the urge to announce something, write down one concrete step instead. Not because you don't deserve attention, but because you deserve actual progress. Not just a round of applause. Pause. You're already halfway there. And if you're still here, you're not just curious about philosophy. You're ready to live it. The road to mastering your words is steep, demanding persistence and awareness. But ahead you'll find real strategies. Practical, not preachy. To make Stoicism more than a theory, make it your life. Walk the whole path, and if something here resonated, a quiet like is enough. That silent gesture carries far, just like the Stoic spirit, deep, steady, and strong. Lesson 5. Choose your confidence. There's a kind of spiritual self-destruction people commit daily. Talking too much. To the wrong people. You think you're connecting, but really, you're handing over tools that can be used against you. Every overshare, another shovel digging your own hole, until someone else uses your truth to bury you. Sound dramatic? Then ask yourself, of everyone you've confided in, how many truly stayed silent? Out of respect, not just lack of opportunity. Stoicism doesn't only mean talking less. It means knowing who to talk to. You don't need to close off. You need to choose wisely. As life goes on, it gets clearer. Not everyone should access your internal world. Ever found yourself telling a stranger on a bus about your family problems, your job stress, your heartbreak? It feels safe. They don't know you, so they can't judge. But because they're not invested, they're not loyal to your story. We live in an economy of information, and naivety is easily exploited. I knew a guy, Mark, new personal trainer full of plans. He opened up to a friend about his business struggles, debts, ideas. That friend listened, nodded, and opened a gym next door, targeting the same clients. Even Mark's throwaway comment, "I might not make it through the month," spooked potential investors. He wasn't weak. He just exposed his weaknesses to someone who didn't earn that trust. This doesn't just happen to entrepreneurs. It happens in offices. When venting to a co-worker shifts how your boss treats you. It happens in families. When your confessions become weapons. It happens online, where oversharing feels like therapy, but can come back to bite. Lightening your chest isn't the same as guarding your future. So what's the solution? Not silence. Discernment. Before you speak, ask, does this make me stronger? Or give someone power over me? Not sure? Hold it in. Everything you say is stored. In memory, in gossip, maybe even in schemes. Use this rule. Let someone show up 3 times. In joy, in pain, and in silence. Before you share anything deep. Everyone's kind when it's easy. But the one who stays quiet when there's nothing to gain, that's the one to trust. Want proof? Look at CEOs. They don't hide new projects because they're paranoid. They know leaks don't come from enemies. They come from mouths. Without real loyalty, your life is a prototype in progress. Don't let someone judge your value before you're finished building. Sometimes silence is your only shield. And a true confidant? They won't need every detail. They'll get you. Even in your silence. The Bible warns, don't cast pearls before swine, not because your truth isn't valuable, but because not everyone can honor it. So ask, who are you sharing with? And can they protect it? Or are they just waiting for the right moment to use it? One day you'll learn. The one who knows most about you might understand you the least. And the one who truly sees you won't need much said at all. That's when it clicks. Silence isn't emptiness. It's wisdom made visible. Lesson 6. Silence is power. Silence isn't about withholding. It's a choice. One that costs. It's not flashy. It's not easy. But it's powerful. Because holding your tongue when you have every reason to speak, that takes courage. In a world where everyone's broadcasting, who dares to stay quiet? Maybe you. And if so, you're not reacting. You're owning your presence. Ever had someone lie about you in front of a crowd? Your body wants to explode. But if you've ever just looked, nodded, and walked away, you know it hurts, but it also lands. That silence says, I don't need to defend myself. In that pause, you're not just mastering your words, you're mastering yourself. Marcus Aurelius barely spoke. His thoughts, they changed the world. In a line not often quoted, he once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who wronged you. Don't imitate, don't retaliate. Avoid the trap of reacting. You don't need words to fight back. Simply avoid becoming the very thing you despise." It's that simple. Ever notice how some people say the wisest things, yet it doesn't seem to stick? Meanwhile, others quietly go about their work, say little, and we remember them forever. Why? Because words are fleeting, actions have weight. Words fade away, but actions leave their mark. Silence holds a power many fear. The fear of being misunderstood. We worry that if we remain quiet, people will think we're weak, confused, or uninformed. But here's the twist. Silence creates a unique power. It leaves people guessing, and in that uncertainty, you gain influence. This sounds great, but how do you practice this in a world that's always trying to push your buttons? The answer lies in the small moments. When your loved one is upset, bringing up every past mistake, can you just hold their hand and listen rather than defend yourself? When a colleague throws subtle shade in a meeting, can you smile, address your boss, and simply present your point? No more, no less. Take David, a designer in a field where creativity isn't always appreciated. One day, a co-worker stole one of his ideas and presented it to their boss as their own. Everyone cheered. David said nothing. No retaliation. A week later, when it was time to put the idea into action, the team turned to David for the details. Why? Because the essence of the idea was in his mind, not theirs. He owned the moment. No words, just action. From then on, people saw him not just as talented, but grounded. Silence, used correctly, flips the script. People don't listen to you just because you speak. They listen because they know that when you speak, it counts. Sometimes silence is all the medicine you need. When we stop voicing every negative thought and just sit with them, they begin to fade. This idea runs deep in Zen, Taoism, Buddhism, and the principle of Wu Wei. Non-action is not about avoidance, but about processing at a deeper level. Here's a challenge for you. Try a day of silence. No arguments, no proving, no indirect posts aimed at anyone. Just observe. Notice every time you want to speak but choose not to. At the end of the day, ask yourself, if I had said something, would it have made things better? You might not be the most eloquent speaker, and that's okay. You can still make your words matter by speaking less, by speaking only when it truly matters. Don't let your voice lose its value by giving it away too often. Silence is power, but only if you're strong enough to hold it. If you've ever held back from saying something and realized it made you stronger, drop a strength in silence to mark the moment you stopped reacting like you used to. We all share a basic human instinct, the need to be seen and recognized. Often, the quickest way to satisfy that urge is by talking about what we plan to do, what we're working on, or what we hope to achieve. We believe that by talking about it, others will see us as serious, as someone of value. But the truth is, the more we speak before taking action, the more we risk losing our drive to act. Not because someone sabotages us, but because talking too much dilutes our will to follow through. The more we express ourselves with words, the easier it is to believe we've made progress. But in reality, we may not have even started. Those who follow the Stoic mindset truly understand this. They know that every word costs energy. Every time we share a plan, justify a decision, or try to prove our worth, we're giving away something that should be reserved for action. Stoics act first, speak later, not because they have nothing to say, but because they know that true credibility isn't built on convincing others. It's built by letting results speak for themselves. In a world filled with constant noise, the one who knows when to stay silent commands the most attention. Think about the last time you told someone you were going to learn a new language, get fit, write a book, or start a project. What happened after that? If you're like most people, the excitement probably faded quickly. Just by saying it out loud, you got a rush of accomplishment without doing the work. Your brain experienced the reward before the effort, and then things stalled, not because you're weak, but because you unknowingly traded action for illusion. Purposeful silence isn't avoidance, it's a strategy. Like planting a seed, you don't dig it up every day to check its growth. You let it grow in silence, quietly and steadily. The same goes for people. The most meaningful things require protection from rash judgment and impatience. When you keep your plans to yourself, you give them space to grow, free from external pressure or distortion. Staying silent also trains your inner discipline. Not everyone can do this. It's easy to show you're trying. It's much harder to move forward quietly without needing validation. But that's what sets you apart. Silence demands that you truly believe in your process. It means you don't need to be seen, understood, or praised. You just need to know what you're doing and keep doing it. When the results come, you won't need to say a word. They will speak for you. That's more than recognition. It's trust. Not because you promised, but because you delivered. No hype, no spotlight. Just truth with weight. The kind that makes people stop, notice, and see you differently. Because you weren't trying to be seen, you made it impossible not to be. So next time you feel the urge to share a plan, pause. Ask yourself, what if I kept this to myself? Am I ready to let the results be the only thing that speaks? If the answer is yes, you're on the right track. The one who controls their words is the one who is truly in control. And that's where real value begins. We've just explored 7 Stoic-inspired lessons to help master your words, from listening more and managing your emotions to knowing when silence speaks louder than promises. Each one is more than just a philosophical idea. It's a practical tool to help you live with greater clarity, resilience, and true impact through quiet strength. The more we grow, the less we need to talk. Our actions speak for us. Words can build or destroy, but when you learn to control them, you're not just mastering speech, you're mastering yourself. That's the power Stoicism gives you: inner freedom, calm in chaos, and unwavering focus on the path you've chosen. If this video resonated with you in a way you hadn't thought of before, give it a like. It might spark something in someone else too. Share your thoughts in the comments so we can learn and grow together. Share this with a friend, a loved one, someone who could use more calm right now. And don't forget to subscribe. Your journey to self-mastery is just beginning, and what's coming next will keep you going strong. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.